Alright, so as you can imagine, just like back in the previous trilogy with when we were on the Normandy, we of course now would be doing our rounds, going around talking to people on the Tempest.
So we have a stowaway.
You mean PB?
She's decided to set up in one of the escape pods. You don't need a psychologist to tell you that one's got commitment issues.
How do you think the crew is holding up?
I'm happy to share what I can without violating patient confidentiality. Anyone in particular? I sort them in their files and my brain by species.
Why do you sort them that way?
Just easier for me to see patterns in behavior.
How do you think the human crew members are handling things?
There's a lot of them.
How's Cora doing?
She's processing. Your father was her mentor. She expected to follow in his footsteps, but he gave the role of Pathfinder to you. Just because she trusts his judgment doesn't mean she's not confused.
If my memory recalls correctly, I believe her dialogue about these changes as you progress through the game. So if you ask her at different points of the story, her answers will change, showing that there's, like, change going on with these characters as you progress through their stories.
How's Liam?
A handful. Every time I patch him up, he breaks something new. Liam's we can't lose attitude is commendable. But I worry how he'll react when something does go wrong.
And that's right there is one of the main issues I've got with Liam. She kind of nailed it right on the head there.
Suvi okay?
She's remarkably adaptive. I'm kind of jealous.
Gil?
Gil likes to use humor as a defensive technique. He'd rather bury himself in the Nomad than tackle emotions head on.
I'd like to check in on the non-human crew.
Ask away.
Is PB all right?
She's avoiding me. Probably thinks I'll poke her with a needle if she gets too close.
To be fair, you're always giving me shots.
Not in the hallway.
Is Drac good?
That old bastard's always good. I've never met anyone who can be so stubborn and so appreciative. Could you look out for him, Ryder?
I mean, to be fair, the man's 1,300 years old. That's kind of what I would expect. I mean, let's just say I've seen plenty of old men in, that old age range where they're just like, yeah, if they're extremely stubborn, like, yeah, but then they'll also be like, yeah, thanks a lot for that. I appreciate your help, that kind of thing. So that doesn't surprise me, at least, that that's basically Drac at this point.
Don't worry, Lexi. I'll keep an eye on him.
Thank you. And maybe don't mention I asked?
Tell me about Vetra.
Vetra's used to having someone depend on her. I think that's why she's so resourceful and likes providing for other people. That being said, I think she could use a little me time.
How's our Solarian?
He's quite the gossip. Tight-lipped about himself, though.
Thanks for the insight. How did you get into medicine?
My mum was a dancer on Omega. Dad was a bouncer. I'd patch him up after busy nights. Discovered I had steady hands. They put every credit they earned into my education.
Are they here in Helios?
No. Both died in a turf war. Made leaving the Milky Way behind easier.
I'll let you get back to it.
I'll be here if you need me.
Alright, so it looks like those missions finished. By the way, I believe these only progress in-game time. This is not like the mission table in Inquisition where it can pass in real-life time. You actually have to let time pass while you're playing the game in order for it to actually progress here, which is frustrating. Especially if you're wanting to get a bunch of these done, you literally have to make sure that you are spending time in game in order for this to actually finish. Whoops. Woo! Forgot that you can do that here. Zoom in! Can't do that yet.
Report from the Nexus. Population's growing as people wake up. Lots of hopefuls waiting for a home.
Bradley will have all the help he can take.
They'll be starting crops soon. Can't tell if they have enough water or too much. I grew up on a little cargo freighter. Only saw gardens in vids, but I always loved them. I daydreamed about planting a big rose garden when we got here and still imagine it sometimes. Roses in Helios.
So there's a heart soft as rose petals under that uniform.
I got plenty under here, pal. Does the big bad Pathfinder have a soft spot too?
I might. For certain someones.
Good to know. We've all got our something. I didn't for a while. After I left the Asari Commandos, well, I didn't leave. My mentor, Nasira, said I should go.
Why?
The initiative would suit you better, was all she said. Being a huntress suited me fine, but she insisted.
It sounds like she cared more about what you needed than about what you wanted.
I didn't need to be rejected. Still, that's familiar. When your biotics are honed into huntress-grade weapons, people can be weird about it. The initiative seemed better. Just didn't see how I'd fit into their brave new galaxy. I never fit anywhere before. Then I met some jerk named Ryder. Talked about traveling to Andromeda like he was teaching you how to see it.
What part of that vision made you want to take the plunge?
A civilization where everyone had a place, even AI, or an overpowered human biotic. Your father said, I get being different. Now imagine being welcome and making others like you welcome too. When I was 13, I could warp a steel girder. He made me wonder, what if someone had told me that's okay?
You know what I find interesting? The fact that she is the biological daughter of the elusive man, I'm pretty sure is something that only we, the players, know. It's something that the viewers know about, but the characters in the story don't know about. Like, I'm pretty sure Cora has no idea who her actual father is. And I'm pretty sure nobody else knew, unless maybe Ryder knew and he just didn't. Not this Ryder, Alec Ryder. Maybe he found out and he just never shared that with her. It's also possible, what if the elusive man actually knew about Cora and also had a hand in perhaps getting Cora here or getting Cora into the Huntresses? It's very, vague what exactly we know. As far as I can tell, all we know is that she is his daughter, and that's basically it. In terms of the connections there. And I just found myself wondering, what if that knowledge was known by the characters? What if Cora did know who her father was? What if the others knew? What if Alec Ryder knew? How would that have changed things? Did it change things if in fact he did know? So many questions I have.
The whole expedition might never have launched. Dad knew that.
He wouldn't be stalled by minor issues like credits or physics. So I gave the initiative my all. Kept thinking of the niche I wanted, my rose garden. I thought I knew what I was going to be.
This is about not taking over as Pathfinder?
Didn't think it would still sting. Nasira, your father, even my parents. They leave, I'm left without answers. Nowhere to stand.
I get that. We've all had a lot of disappointments lately.
You're doing well. For having no training, being your second isn't so bad. And if that remnant tech pays off, maybe someday I'll have roses too. Hi there.
Any more commando war stories?
We once infiltrated a dangerous cult by posing as new initiates. Valenza hated it. She was like our padre. The cult, that perversion of faith, really upset her.
How did you stop them?
Nasira pretended that Valenza needed to be purified of evil. She was given a private audience with the cult leader. Valenza shot her, and then prayed for her.
How's the search for the Asari Ark going?
The Lucinia? Checking every comm that's coming in. Nothing concrete yet.
See you later, Cora.
I'll be here.
So this is what you and Ryder do for fun. Explore weird vaults that try to
fly into space clouds that try to kill us too.
I deserve a raise.
I enjoy the banter that they have just kind of across the ship.
Messing with that vault feels like early brain surgery. Just poking and hoping.
As long as it helps us to live here, I don't care how the vault's doing it.
Magnificently. That's how.
I prefer tech with more exposed bolts. If you can't open it, you don't own it. Hey, Ryder. What's the story?
Good talking to you, Gil.
Anytime.
Spoke with him for just a moment. Hey, good talking with you.
Terraforming, Atmo processors, gravity wells, life-destroying murder bubbles. We really had no idea what Helios was about, did we?
If we knew what it was all about, it wouldn't be an adventure. It would just be moving. And everyone hates moving. Just the packing alone.
Oh, don't get me started.
Point taken. I'm just saying. I really hope you have a plan, Ryder.
The plan's the same. We find a home. Whatever that takes.
Keep that drive. Makes me believe we can make it. I mean, we have to make it. The alternative is not even worth thinking about.
You probably have work to do. We can chat later.
You know where to find me.
Prodromos. Sounds good, doesn't it? We started Pathfinder. A new life. That is goddamn brilliant.
Just wondering what you think of how I'm doing at the job.
I'm committed to the initiative. You're Pathfinder. It's as simple as it gets.
We'll talk later.
I know it.
Alright, the kitchen is over here, so let's go pay a visit to our new Krogan buddy, Drac.
Don't give the Pathfinder too much trouble. Oh, Rushan.
Who are you talking to?
Kesh, Nexus Superintendent, thinks she can boss me around just because she's my granddaughter.
So yes, this is, they established each other as grandfather and granddaughter. He's basically the man who raised her. We find out later from Drac what actually happened with Kesh, in terms of like what happened when she was born and how that led to Drac being the man who raised her.
I like the no trouble plan. How about we stick with that?
Kesh said not too much trouble, kid. Not no trouble. The cat makes sure some trouble's always coming for you.
That's not reassuring.
Life out here ain't reassuring. You'll get used to it.
Is that all you brought?
You travel lean when supplies are tight and you're on your own.
Your people had to know what it'd be like when you left the Nexus.
We did, but there weren't a lot of options. After the mutiny happened, it was either buckle under Tan's rules or start our own colony. Easy choice. Bad consequences all around.
Not all Krogan left. Your granddaughter stayed.
Good thing she did. Without my Rushan, you wouldn't have had much of a station to tie your ship to. As for me, I'm way more useful out here. Lots to shoot at, for one.
Krogan could have made a real difference on the Nexus.
Staying under those conditions would have just resulted in another mutiny. We have a much better shot at something good out here.
Can't argue with that.
We'll learn a lot more about what's going on with the Krogan later when we get to another specific planet.
Ryder, you meet Spender yet? Colonial Affairs, the ass in Assistant Director. Got no idea why Addison keeps him around. Spender lied to the Krogan during the uprising, and he's headed out for Kesh ever since. He's up to something. I just can't prove it. We should pay him a visit on the Nexus.
Here's what I have to say about Spender. Puh! There we go, thank you.
What's it like to have Kesh as a granddaughter?
Kesh is my Rushan, child of my blood. Raised her myself. Damn proud of her, too. She did good, even with me for a granddad.
She's honest. Definitely blunt.
She had to take after me in some ways, I guess.
I'd like to know more about you.
Fire away.
Tell me more about the Krogan colony.
My clan's there. We also got some scouts looking for any unclaimed territory to grab on.
Remember that for later.
Got a decent setup going. Self-sustainable. The works. Even some farming.
Farming? Krogan farm?
Food's food. Just because we can eat anything doesn't mean we gotta settle for scraps. I'm pretty fond of Corcrow roots myself. Takes a while to chew through those.
How did you and Vetra meet?
Huh, that's right. Your father brought you into the project pretty late, didn't he? Must have been a pretty steep learning curve since they thawed you out.
You could say that.
You make do with what you get. Anyway, I met Vetra back when we were building the Nexus. She swiped supplies I was trying to get for Kesh right under my nose. I tried to intimidate her into turning them over to me, and let me tell you, that Turian takes shit from no one.
She really has a way of getting things done.
She sure does. But here's the best part. She waited until I saw her again in Kesh's office, no less, to tell me she'd been working for Kesh all along. They're both still laughing at me over that.
So, about all this combat experience you have, I'd love some details.
Ha! The list will be shorter if you ask me what experience I don't have. I've been doing this for a long time now, centuries, shit, well over 1,000 years. Don't even know how I'm still alive, to be honest.
Skill?
You need luck to be a merc. Skill, sure, but a whole lot of luck. And a really hard head.
Well, you know what the old saying is, it's far better to be lucky than good.
Why did the Krogan leave the Nexus?
The Nexus got us Krogan to stop the mutiny. In return, we were supposed to get a say in station business. Spender, Addison's assistant, lied about the deal, and Tan came down hard. Too hard. So we left. Kesh is alone on that station now.
Do you think Cash can handle station politics?
Kesh can handle anything. Thing is, Spender's a liar and a coward. He was part of the mutiny, I know he was. A lot of people got hurt because of him, on both sides.
So what's my part in this?
Things need to get sorted out and my clan needs to get back on station, without Spender messing things up. Way I see it, you're probably the best one for that job.
Don't worry, we will definitely be taking care of Spender later.
Did Lexi brief you on SAM and squad connectivity yet?
Yeah, you want to hook that thing up to my comms, sure, but that's where it stops. Putting an AI in your head, giving it access to everything like that, it's begging for trouble.
Why do you say that?
I've seen what bots can do when they turn on their creators. Been in some of those fights. There's a reason that kind of research was outlawed.
Yeah, I was dismissed from the Alliance when news of what my dad was researching got out.
No shit. Ruined the writer name, I'll bet.
Almost. Sam is part of what makes someone a Pathfinder. You're just gonna have to deal with that.
So long as it's not in my head and it ain't messing with my body.
Got any stories or advice to share?
Does a pyjak scratch its butt?
Anything about the Ket, or combat in general?
Well, common Ket are pretty straightforward. Hit them hard enough, they die like anything else.
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
Wraiths are sneaky little shits, like to ghost up behind you when you least expect it. Just listen for them. They tend to give themselves away right before coming at you. Break through their head plates, then a headshot should do the trick.
What I like is that this advice is actually pretty legit in gameplay.
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
Destined are annoying, quick. Got some crazy mist that hides them from view, their friends too. Take a Destined down, and that mist goes away. Makes them a prime target, if you ask me. Perfect for grenade practice.
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
There's just something wrong about the kid. The absolute single-mindedness.
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
So, Chosen, it's not good to let too many of them get close to you at once. If they hit your shields, take a step back. Let me handle them. Bet you anything they're not used to being rushed by a Krogan.
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
Fire and explosives are good against anything with heavy armor. Or anything, really. Generally, no one likes being set on fire.
Generally? There's a story behind this.
Ha, there sure is.
You mentioned that people generally don't like being set on fire?
I was hoping you'd ask. So, about 400 years ago, give or take a decade, me and my outfit were pinned down during a skirmish with another merc group. So I pull off my usual stunt, charge ahead and breach their barricade. Pop my flamethrower and get ready to let go. Only to see them all screaming and running away. Turns out, I crashed through a shipment of Turian brandy on my way in. Never even noticed I was on fire. But they sure did. Never seen a pack of mercs panic that badly before.
It's a flaming Krogan! Run!
Tell me more about fighting Ket.
Ascendant. Keep your distance. Don't let him get you in those force fields. Pop that little orb, then shoot him in the head, just like anything else.
I'm just picturing him on fire. He shows up and it's like, in Princess Bride, I'm the great Dread Pirate Roberts.
We can talk more later.
Sure.
Hey, one last thing.
Yeah?
Is everyone a kid to you?
Ha, when you get to be my age, yeah, pretty much.
I mean, like I said, the man's 1,300 years old. Of course, he's gonna be like, you're all kids in comparison to me. Alright. Before we talk with...
Remnant vaults all those secrets. Have to go exploring in one someday.
Imagine flying through one. Now that would be a real hazard course.
Before we talk to those two, let's talk to BB.
You're setting up in here, huh?
Yeah, I'm going through what we got out of that vault. If I can crack this data storage box, it'll help with a personal project back on the Nexus. This is a nice, out-of-the-way place where I can tinker, and I can sleep anywhere. It's not exactly homey, but I like that about it. Not really looking for a home. Oh, but I will help you find everyone a home. While I'm with you, at least.
Does your brain ever take a breath?
Sorry, not really. Even my dreams are in time-lapse. I get it. You want to know who's on your ship, so you're here to figure out what makes me tick, right?
Something like that? Sure.
Well, I was born in a log cabin on rural Haitiana to simple but loving parents, just trying to... I look forward, not back, Ryder. Why snooze through my life story? Get to know me out in the field while we're uncovering the mysteries of this galaxy. That's why I'm here. Got tired of yawning back home.
Maybe you just needed more sleep.
We were out for 600 years. A special someone made the trip with me, and she woke up a different person. I've slept enough. Ryder, the Milky Way was so... been there, done that. Even if I hadn't done it, someone had. If there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I live for the unknown. For the never been done.
And that's something that, to me, completely separates PB from Sarah. I'm sorry I keep bringing this up, but it's something that I have kept hearing from people who play these games, the BioWare player base and community, I guess. Like, I keep hearing people compare, like, when this game first came out, people were immediately comparing her to Sarah, and I've just never had that connection work for me, because they're just so different to me. And that's one of the big reasons why. That right there is a sentence that really helps describe PB. And that is not Sarah.
That's just the one thing you want me to know about you.
Let's start with that, then. Buy me a drink sometime. Who knows what will spill out of my mouth. Tell you what. I need remnant scrap. Remtech, I call it. For projects like the one I mentioned, which you're gonna love, by the by. Promise to bring me what you scrounge, and I'll submit to all your questions.
Remtech, huh? You got it.
You can also see how incredibly flirtatious she is right away. The way she's like, and maybe you can get me to tell you whatever you want me to. You know, she's always constantly being very flirtatious.
You again. Want to hear more about my childhood log cabin?
So how do you like the team?
Interesting bunch. I get a good feeling from Vetra. Not your typical military-minded Turian. Liam seems a lively one. I expect he'll surprise me. Drek is, well, old. Wonder if he can still learn new tricks.
What about...
Gil smacks of complication. Might take some unraveling. Callow and Suvi seem busy. I hope they aren't all work, work, work. Who's left?
Well, there's...
Oh, right, Cora. What's her deal? Is she as prim and proper as she comes across?
She's exactly what she should be. Capable, reliable. She's a valuable part of my team.
Sure. That comes across too.
There's also Lexi, our doctor. She's an Asari.
Oh, I'll get around to her. All in all, seems like a decent bunch.
What drew you to the Remnant?
Are you kidding? It's evidence of a sophisticated species no one knows anything about. It doesn't get more intriguing than that. There's so much to discover. I want to be the first to figure them out. And the tech, it's on a different scale. If we can appropriate it, who knows what advances we'll make.
You really won't tell me what you're working on?
That's right. Next question.
What was it like for you on the Nexus?
Well, I wasn't supposed to be woken up yet. A resourceful accomplice finagled my early thaw. So I kind of lived off the grid. Snuck around, bullshitted my way onto excursions off station. After I found my first remnant ruin, I started, borrowing shuttles. After that, I didn't spend much time on the Nexus. I even missed most of the revolt.
You mentioned you came to Andromeda with someone?
Nothing gets by you. Guess that's why you're the Pathfinder. Just a friend. The one who woke me up early. But now she's not even that. It's better to venture into the unknown without restraints or entanglements, don't you think?
I don't know. Don't friends and loved ones make all the effort worthwhile?
I've always been self-motivated. Don't need much more than curiosity to drive me forward.
You're off the hook, PB. Good luck with your project.
Thanks. Don't be a stranger.
Hello, Gil. When are you cleaning up that repair on the sensor console?
I'm not. It's a redesign.
A redesign? Without a trained crew?
I'm trained and it's working great. Don't be so uptight.
Everything okay?
Oh, fine. Fine. Don't worry about it. What can I do for you?
I couldn't help overhearing you and Gil. It sounded pretty heated.
He likes redesigning things, but the ship was built this way for a reason. I wish Gil would respect that. It's nothing to concern yourself about, really.
Tell me something else about the ship.
The glass on board? It's actually a clear oxide and nanofiber compound. It bends rather than shattering.
How tough is it? We're only an arm's length away from hard vacuum.
Our testing involved 3 drunk Krogan with sledgehammers and a C-Sec battering ram. It's sturdy.
Tell me something else about the ship.
O'Connell, our systems designer, was running a power distribution model, how power moves through the ship. But he forgot to lock his terminal and we, added a few embellishments. For 2 days, poor O'Connell was convinced that turning on all the bathroom lights would overload the engine core.
Tell me something else about the ship.
I'm all out of stories for now. Sorry. You'll have to make some new ones.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Well, I can't talk about Suvi. She's sitting right there.
I'm not listening. You can say whatever you like.
Oh no, I'm not falling for that again.
That's a smart Solarian.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
I'll admit it. Gil's rather irritating. He insists on redesigning systems rather than maintaining them.
He likes to do things his way.
That doesn't make it the right way.
I know this is going to sound kind of strange, but I usually tend to side with Callow whenever this conflict comes up. We'll get more into it as we progress, and it's eventually going to come to a head where Callow just has enough and finally has a confrontation with Gil about it. So it's just it's also kind of a shame that there's kind of no middle ground here. You have to side with one or the other. And what's cool about siding with Callow is that he does reach a point where he is willing to ask Gil for help on certain things, to make changes, because he realizes that some changes are going to be necessary for us to deal with future threats.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Liam's quite fun. Not many humans have that kind of energy. I probably shouldn't have told him there are secret compartments in the armory, though. He's been looking all day.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Dr. Tapero seems nice, if quiet. It must be very different here, compared to the Hyperion. Fewer people in stasis shock.
Let's keep it that way. What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Given Drax's history with Solarians, it's probably better I just stay out of his way. Too bad. That grunion roast he makes smells delicious.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
I like PB. But I really hope she doesn't lean on the escape pod's manual release by accident.
Is that easy to do?
It's an escape pod. If it's difficult to use, you're doing it wrong.
I've actually heard that phrase used at work when it comes to the way the fire extinguishers are set up, because the doors to get to them are not locked. You can just easily just pull open the door. And some people were asking, why aren't the doors locked and such? And I think one of our managers said, if it's hard to get to, then we're doing it wrong. Because what if if there's a fire and we actually do need to get one, but oops, it's locked. Oh well. Yeah.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Vetra's very kind. She actually got hold of some dried seaweed snacks for me. Said I needed feeding up.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
I don't talk to Cora much. She always seems so busy. There are things I'd like to ask her about your father, but it never seems like a good time.
What do you think of the rest of the crew?
Oh, if I gossip anymore, I'll get in trouble.
I'll let you concentrate.
You know where I'll be.
And before we talk to Suvi, let's take a look at any emails I've got. Hello, Ryder. Forgive the intrusion. I have an issue that you and Sam should be able to readily solve. It may assist my investigations into the Scourge. We can discuss it in person on the Nexus Labs. My regards to you and Sam, Dr. Adriana. Yeah, I'll remember that for later. From Cora. Can still smell that remnant vault in my armor. A lot of weird stuff down there. Like my Huntress manuals would say, the razor's edge between known and unknown teaches you what can be cut away. Now I think back, it reminded me a little bit of some of the temples on Thessia. Some huge spaces and running water. Some sense of a huge purpose that you can't really understand. Makes me wonder if we'll ever really know what their builders did there. Cora. Hello, Ryder. I'm pleased to report that the Tempest is operating at peak efficiency. So now that you're in command, I thought I'd share a few secret shipboard hacks that the designers and I sneaked into her code. Just send the code JCSB through your Omni tool to open the debug command menu. Give all Dispin. It lets you use the coffee dispenser in the galley an unlimited number of times. Water temp override. Overrides the normal hot water ration in the showers. Jump wash queue. Puts your clothing ahead of everyone else's in the auto laundry cycle. Enjoy. And don't share them around. Callow. Hey, Pathfinder, just hitting this point again. Our team? No place I'd rather be. Here's where we get to fix things. Soon as we have our people on the ground, I'll have eyes on how to get them what they need. This sort of just make it happen is why I joined Hustle, and exactly why I came here. We'll do it! Liam has included a list of media-themed frontiers. Genres include Western, space opera, and oddly, Turian historical dramas. Pathfinder, I thought I ought to clarify. I know I said something about back channels doing what I have to do. Being on the Nexus during the bad times, a lot of us got used to a lot of ugly things, because survival just isn't that pretty. But in the end, I'm here to help you, so if there's anything you don't like, I won't do it. Simple as that. Vetra.
Vetra told me what happened to your dad. I've lost a lot of people over the years. Figured you could use some cheering up. Or at least a distraction. This usually helps me.
Distract has attached 37 images of various rifles and shotguns. 2 are duplicate images. Many are low-res or watermarked. Ryder, attaches my Krogan thesis that I mentioned to you. I know only 500 pages, but I wasn't allowed to go over. If you get through it, I wrote a longer dissertation for the Citadel Journal of Medicine, around 1,400 pages. That's much more insightful and includes mating diagrams, Lexi. Oh my gosh. I cannot imagine. I mean, I'm like one of those who probably couldn't be able to do this himself. Writing 1,400 pages of text. That just like, jeez Louise. I was horrible at writing essays when I was in school, so the idea of writing that much, I'm just like, that's like a nightmare for me. I'm just like, oh gosh, how am I gonna do this? Yoga poses? Who's this from? It's from Lexi. Ryder, given the amount of high-impact cardio in your exercise routine, I recommended spending 5 to 10 minutes a day stretching to open your hips and relieve tightness in the lower back. The poses I've listed below should do nicely. Not to sound elitist, but while it's true that humans invented yoga, the Asari perfected it. And these are different things about yoga. I'm not into yoga, so I'm just like, eh. From PB. Hey Ryder, hope it's okay that I'm keeping this data core in my room, the escape pod. I guess I just really like to ponder things before bed. The best ideas come to me while I'm half asleep. Also, I saw it first. Anyway, we know for sure that it's got some sort of data in it. The trick is how to get at it. I'll keep you updated. PB. Cora, thanks for talking. Things feel better, though they don't feel fixed yet. Remember to take time for yourself, too. Work's important, but so is time to grieve. Grief and fear cannot rule you. Let them be your faithful servants, protective of their mistress. Lost serves a huntress like fuel serves fire. Cora. P.S. Plants are coming along. Sam and I are learning about botany together. Interesting times. Alright. And last but not least, we will talk to Subi.
Scans of the Scourge. All that dark energy twisting and turning on itself. It's splendid.
I suppose it is a rather darkly beautiful phenomenon.
Darkly beautiful. I like that. Helios is incredible, isn't it? Not just constructs like the Scourge and the Remnant Vaults. Just all of it. So alien. A constant reminder of the divine intelligence behind all creation.
You mean a god?
Yes, I believe in a higher power. I know it's a little odd, but I am a scientist because science brings me closer to something greater than myself.
So I talked quite a bit about this the first time we tried to do a playthrough of this game. I guess I'll go ahead and try to remember what I shared exactly now. Especially since I've also come across some other people doing this playthrough and they get to this point and they share their own thoughts. I'm not going to get too much into this on a personal level. You know, I did kind of admit where, you know, how I feel about these kind of things when we did the BioShock series, if you guys haven't seen those playthroughs. You know, on someone who has been a lifelong Christian, you know. But what I find interesting about this, from one standpoint, is the fact that I hardly ever see a character like this. Because how many characters can you think of in fiction where they are a scientist, but they also believe in God? Because usually it's the other way around. They are a scientist, therefore they don't believe in God, because they think the science disproves that. Now, I'm not going to get into whether or not the science can actually prove or disprove that or not, you know, because that's a whole nother separate discussion we could get into, and I don't really feel like getting into that kind of talk or debate right now on a channel about, you know, that focuses on video games and not any of that other stuff, since that's usually one of those taboo topics you never talk about, like at the dinner table, for example. You know what they say, at the dinner table, never bring up politics or religion, right? You know, and there's a good reason for that. But it's just so interesting to see this type of character, to hear a character like this talk about this, you know, from this kind of perspective. It's so unusual and so rare for a character to be here. And I find it fascinating that the team that made this game is the team that decided to put this character in this game. Now, maybe I shouldn't be that surprised because I guess maybe BioWare does have a kind of a history of this, even though this is not the same team at BioWare that has a history of doing this. This was basically a new team from one of their sub-studios. I think it was BioWare Edmonton that made this, if I'm not mistaken. I know Total Biscuit clarified this in his video about this game, about which studio did it and why it's actually not one of their main studios, it's actually one of their side studios that did this. But anyways, it's just so interesting that that team is the team that decided to put a character like this in one of these kind of games here. Yeah, I find that fascinating. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I said how I've seen a few other people have different reactions to this moment in particular because of their own personal beliefs on this matter. And you'll notice there's two distinct choices here. Either I feel exactly the same way or completely debunk it. There's no higher power. You either feel the same way or you feel the complete opposite. And what I've noticed is that there seems to be a lack of middle ground in this game. As we go and continue through this game, this is an example, and you'll see this in other quests that we do throughout this game, is that there is really no middle option. Now, I know that this series, this franchise, Mass Effect, does have a history of choosing one or the other, because you usually would have to pick Paragon or Renegade. That was the historical one choice or the other thing that has been a common thing throughout this series. You don't either choose one side or the other side. But sometimes there was a way to try and make the middle ground kind of work. That was kind of part of the point of getting the necessary amount of Paragon or Renegade points necessary. If you had a high enough amount of Paragon or Renegade points, you could be able to pull off something that was sort of a middle ground without having to resort to a drastic side or the other. Probably my example that I would point to is back on Pharos in the first Mass Effect game, when we were trying to deal with a Thorian, and you remember the guy who was working for the company who was, probably gonna be okay with sacrificing the colonists there to make sure the Thorian was preserved for the company? If you didn't have a high enough Paragon check, and I think I showed this in the recent playthrough, which I did because I didn't, you have to end up basically shooting the guy. But if you have a high enough amount of points, you're able to talk him down from a business standpoint and be able to tell him that helping them would actually be good for business. And that's kind of a good middle ground there as a nice way to, it's like, yeah, you chose one side as sort of, but what you effectively did was have a high enough points on one side to establish a non-violent middle ground in that regard. There's really nothing like that in this game, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because a lot of people were upset that there was no way to be able to make a middle ground choice when it came to these kind of things here. That there was not more than just two options. So I understand that there are complaints because some were saying that they want to have kind of a middle ground here where they could say something like, well, I don't necessarily believe the same way you do, but I have nothing against you feeling that way, believe what you want. But there's nothing here for that. So I sympathize with those people that they don't have that option here. And it's so funny and odd that a series and a company that prides itself on providing lots of choices and options for the player to play through the game different ways how they want, then they then limit you to just two choices. Two distinct different choices and no other options. But maybe that's where the inexperience of this team really comes into play here. That they didn't either consider that or have the time to do that or didn't think about it because they don't have the experience to go, maybe we should add a third option that's kind of a middle ground for players if they don't want to choose one or the other. I don't know. But anyways, like I said,
there's something about coming face to face with something wondrous that makes you want to believe.
Wow. It's wonderful to meet someone who understands. I've had to justify myself so often, as if having faith in the divine invalidated my work as a scientist. As if this sacred could be diminished by the search for truth.
I wasn't questioning your abilities. You never have to justify yourself to me.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, truly. Now I should probably update the rest of the team with my latest reports. We'll talk later.
What I've also noticed is that that talk can also cause people to immediately change their feelings on Suvi as a character. Because once that comes up, they're just like, okay, I don't like Suvi anymore. And that's just kind of a shame that that's really that thing. But at the same time, that's kind of a normal human thing that a lot of us tend to have, don't we? Once we find out one specific thing about somebody, we're like, oh, okay, I don't like this person anymore. You know.
I saw pictures of the vault. Astounding how big it is. And how much of it didn't you see? What if it's way bigger? What's all that space for?
With what it has to do, it could go thousands of miles below the surface of the planet.
Or completely span it. An underground network. Just a thought, of course. I wouldn't even know where to start hypothesizing how it all works. The Remnant builders, whoever, whatever they were, accomplished something far beyond us.
What do you know about the Remnant's terraforming network?
From what I can tell, the vault is designed to adjust almost everything about a planet. Climate, pH of the soil, atmosphere composition. There's even evidence that it can propagate life. If we can figure out how to control the vaults, we could turn these worlds into perfect habitats.
When did you start believing in a god?
My parents were both scientists. My home was ruled by rationality. So when I became a teenager, let's just say that while other kids found Batarian music, I found God.
But your work as a scientist
Convinced me even more, especially when I got into molecular biology, physics. The patterns I kept seeing over and over again, they were like an artist's watermarks. God, to me, is an artist, an inventor, not someone checking to see if I brush my teeth.
I've always loved that interpretation she just gave there about him being an artist or an inventor. And I just love that description so much.
I should get back to things.
Sounds good.
So I'm pretty sure that's all of our talks and rounds here. So, don't worry, we're going to have plenty more later, trust me. So we have to go talk to a doctor. We got to also go talk to Addison as well as Tan. And we got to go find out more about this Spender guy. But anyways, we will be heading back to the Nexus when we return. Stay tuned.